Hello and welcome to a more somber edition of Talkin Bengals, but we'll still have some fun on here. But after a week one disastrous fair, I am wearing the Cincinnati, a football town or drinking town the football problem shirt. So that's how we feel right now with where the team's at. But we got Nick and Josh on. Zach's decided to do better things with his life, like go take his wife on a wonderful trip for their anniversary. So Zach's doing great things. But debacle, disaster, disappointment, keep adding words to start with the D right there to just talk about how bad that really was on Sunday. I mean, none of us called it. We all look ridiculously stupid, for lack of the other word to use there. No one's prediction was even in the ballpark. And I had a fear. I probably should have gone closer with it. I don't think it's going to be as big of a win as we think. But on paper, how did you see it going that way? It doesn't make any sense. You're talking about Jacoby Brissett and a bad offense who's looked bad all offseason, a decent defense. But, man, you'd have thought we were playing the Tom Brady Patriots the way the Bengals looked. And just sloppy, beat themselves, looked just not ready to play football again for the fourth year in a row? Because the first year Zach Taylor was the coach, they looked pretty good against the Seahawks in week one. They still lost, but they look good. Every other year with Joe Burrow, they look like crap in week one. They've even won a game in week one, but they still didn't look very good. So, Josh, what are your thoughts quickly on the game before we get into our cheers and jeers?
Well, I'm just reminiscing back to the week one that they did win. That's the same season that they got this hat. So I'm just going to be happy about that season right now because this week one was atrocious, and we're obviously going to get more into it during this. But for right now, I'll just leave with that. Let's just be happy about the 2021 season conference championship hat.
What are your week one thoughts really quick?
We were playing against the backup quarterback. We never have a good week against the backup quarterback.
That is 100% fair.
Ever.
So.
Check out the latest Bengals gear with Season Enterprises with our Boo Day and Sunday Fun Day tees and sweatshirts. Check out Season Enterprises on Etsy or talkinbengals.com to keep the whole family in style this fall.
Getting into cheers and jeers just because it's therapeutic for us. It's going to give us a little bit of catharsis to say who we're ticked off at and anybody we're happy with. So, Nick, still battling some stuff going on with your health there, so I'll let you take the first cheers and jeers.
I would say my cheers, kicking game. Kicking game was definitely something to be happy about. Didn't have any woes. The punter can boot the ball. Money Mac doing his thing. Can't really complain about that at all. When you have a kicking game that's darn near automatic, it's good stuff. Cheers. The rest of the game.
Dang it, you stole mine.
That's the best I got. Josh, what do you think?
Well, I mean, that was the only cheer of the entire game was the punter. I mean, he about had the best punt probably any of us have ever seen. Kicking it from our 20, and it was 2 feet away from going out at the half-yard line. But that was amazing. Every punt he had was not Brad Robbins. And the jeers, like he said, the rest of the game, offense, defense, it was atrocious.
I'm trying to think of a different cheer. I thought the all-orange uniforms looked nice. They were pretty cool. I'll give that a cheer. I like the orange out. Great job, fellow fans, for filling the stadium with orange colors. And, that you did your part. You can't help it that the team didn't show up. But, we'll get more into it in our next section. But my jeer, I'm so caught in between a couple of them because you guys did everything. I'm trying to pick one. First, I would say the defense in general. No pass rush, pathetic tackling, just awful. Trey Hendrickson is the only pass rusher on the field. And he can't do it all. There was one play they talked about where he was throwing up his hands and yelling and cussing as he came off the field. You literally made the quarterback step up into the middle, and no one's there to tackle him. As a defensive end, that's infuriating. You force the quarterback back toward the rest of your teammates, and nobody touches him, and he gets a first down. So, I mean, that's ridiculous on the defense right there. The running game, do we have a running game? I didn't see one for very much. One or two great rushes, and then everything else looked like crap. And Joe Mixon was not the problem because Joe Mixon had well over 100 yards, had a fantastic game, got a game ball in Houston. So for all the Joe Mixon haters, and I was one saying he was old too, so I'll take part of the blame. It's not Joe Mixon. And we'll get into a little bit more of the thoughts of the rushing game in a minute. But lastly, my last year is Joe Burrow. Is he okay? Is somebody checking on him? Are we making sure he's getting the mental health counseling or whatever he needs to not see ghosts on the field? Because as we'll get into a little bit further, he did not look like Joe Burrow at all. And it's alarming for different reasons, but those are my jeers.
Podium Automotive is a proud sponsor of Talkin Bengals. In Greater Cincinnati, it's Podium Automotive for all your auto needs. Skilled technicians, quality service you can trust, and fair prices. Tell us Talkin Bengals sent you and get 5% off all services. Schedule your appointment today on Facebook at Podium Automotive or call 859-869-0097.
That's leading us right into who or what is to blame for the slow start, for losing the ball game. And Josh, I'll let you go first.
So I'm really just going to focus on three things. I'm going to focus on the head coach, the guy that's supposed to come up with the game plan. Obviously, the game plan week one is never sufficient. Underestimates what they're going to come up against. They look ill-prepared to walk on that field every single time. It's going to be Zach Taylor. Joe Burrow has to take a lot of the blame too. He made some horrible decisions. And they looked like they were made out of panic.
Yep.
He was afraid he was going to get hit. He was afraid that the line was breaking down and allowing free runners to come by and take him out like he's had way too many times. And that's going to lead me into the biggest issue, the issue that we've been talking about for 2 years, Frank Pollock.
Mm-hmm.
He is the offensive line and running game coach. I would say we give him a pass on the first year because look who he had to work with. He had nobody. He had a bunch of guys that are not even in the NFL anymore. The past 2 years, they rebuilt the line, and he has done nothing with it. He's taken guys from other teams that had very good careers, brought them to Cincinnati, and they look like bums.
Yes. Pathetic.
And that is the reason why Joe Burrow doesn't trust the line, because I don't think he trusts what Frank Pollock is doing. But I really want to see what Nick has to say.
I think that Frank is definitely the problem on offense. I think his blocking schemes are terrible. You look at any other team, and they don't have these problems. Even the really bad teams, they don't have these problems. Run blocking, just essentially running it up the middle. You block the guy who is in front of you. You call a cross block where one guy crashes down, the other guy goes around him. Super simple, easy. Nope, don't see none of that. You got guys who are talented enough to do it, but you don't call it. You don't have anybody doing anything to do it. And we're not moving anybody on the line. It's like watching Pee Wee football. I mean, the third graders that I coached, they'll hit the guy and then see where the runner is, so that way they can watch the runner run the ball. It's essentially what it looks like.
A question for you as the resident, offensive line expert on the show. Is it safe to say that the Giants, the big guys, I say expert with quotes on there, but you coach and you played line, so you know a lot more about line than I do. But we keep getting these big behemoths, these big gigantic guys. I don't know if it's paid off. They're like, well, everybody else is getting these smaller, agile tackles. Maybe there's some logic to that. I don't know that having these huge people has done us any good. What are your thoughts?
I would take somebody more average size but quicker speed, especially with these edge rushers, to have to get out into those edge rushers. I think that's going to play a lot bigger role. I really hope our big guys, they really prove me wrong. But what I've noticed is that the bigger they are, the slower they are. Mm-hmm. And when you're trying to block against one of those fast pass rushers, just look at Myles Murphy and Trey Hendrickson. How do you block against them? You have a more agile left tackle and right tackle. Or you got to come out of the backfield and block them. And if you don't do that well, you're screwed. You have Joe Burrow running for his life. You got Zach Moss or Chase Brown running for their lives, trying to figure out where in the heck is the hole. I don't want to give my analogy there because it's not PG, but seriously, it's awful. Defensively, really, I just want to kind of stay on offense right now. Offensively, I'm going to blame a lot of it on we had one drive where the starters played all preseason. You might as well just not even had them play the preseason at all. You got to get them some plays, get them drives, get them some motion, get them into a groove, have them figure it out. You can't just let them play one drive and then call it a preseason. It's ridiculous. The game plans going in, it's Pollock, it's Taylor. Both of those coaches, they're, in my opinion, those are the coaches that you need to be like, hey, what is going on? What are we doing? This is your team. This is your scheme. Defensively, Lou. What? You guys not practice tackling? You look like a bunch of first graders trying to tackle out there. Heads down, arms reaching out, going to the side, not squaring anybody up with your shoulder. It's fundamental tackling. Go back to like you're teaching a first grader who's never played before. Square them up with your shoulder and wrap around the waist. How hard is it?
It's incredible, apparently.
Put your head in front of them, hit them with your shoulder, keep your face up.
It's frustrating as all get out that it's the basics, it's the fundamentals, it's the stuff, and all the talking heads and people say, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. There's a bigger risk of injury, and the most important ability is availability. I agree, they do need to be on the field, but all these joint practices where the quarterbacks don't get hit and you don't fully tackle everybody and all this garbage, it's fake football. Joe Burrow probably needed a little bit more exposure. I know people are like, you're crazy, he just needs to be on the field. And he's historically been really bad. He's like he's in the lowest 6 quarterbacks over the last 4 years in the first 4 weeks. He's not good. He's not good in the first week. But if that's the product you're going to get, and yes, we're high-siding. It's week 1. We're going to get to that here in a little bit. That we're just being pessimistic right now and calling a spade. But you've got to play better. That's the bottom line. The coaching staff did not have a game plan that impressed. Running the ball so early on, bad blocking on the first pass play. It just looked like Joe Burrow never felt comfortable. And the sloppiness, not being able to hold on to the ball. Gesicki, you got to catch that ball, son. You have one job. You were brought here to catch touchdowns. And yeah, it was a difficult catch, but you had your hands on it, or your hand on it, but you didn't wrap it up with both hands before you hit the ground. If you wrap it up well with both hands, you're going to catch it and you get a touchdown. And you can do your gritty and not look like an idiot for grittying a drop. And then Tanner Hudson, what in the actual fork were you thinking? Because we can't use the other F word on the show. But all you had to do was hold the ball normal and walk into the end zone or fall into the end zone. Trying to celebrate at the 2-yard line or whatever he was doing. Like, oh my God. He looked like Irv Smith out there just fumbling the ball everywhere. And pathetic. It was. And Charlie Jones, how do you lose the ball on a punt? Your one job on a punt is to keep hold of the ball. Yeah, if you can get some yardage, great. But your one job is hold on to the ball. And what does that all come back to, like you guys talked about? It's coaching. That is a culture of crap. Those mistakes happen when there's no accountability. Those mistakes happen when you're not in a team culture and you're looking past the game that you're playing that week. And it makes me mad. I know it's just week one. Everybody take a deep breath. And that's what, Joe said in the last couple of years, oh, it's just the first week. We got 15 more games or 16 more games or whatever. But after last season, I don't believe that. They did not look great last year. And everyone's like, oh, if you had a healthy Joe Burrow, they could have made a run at the Super Bowl. Honestly, I don't think so. He still didn't look like himself for most of the season. The defense was garbage. And from what I heard all offseason, watching them play, so like, oh, the defense is going to figure it out. They look like crap. There's no other way to say it. I mean, yes, it's judging everything off one game, but they looked horrible. So who's to blame? Coaching staff, the offense, and the defense. And Charlie Jones for not being able to hold a ball in special teams. Otherwise, great job, Darren Simmons. Special teams look really good. So don't want to drag you into all this slander. Good job, Darren Simmons.
Hey, guys. Great team loss. Great team loss. Good job.
And I like Zach Taylor. I think he's a good coach overall. But there's times where I don't think anyone on that staff puts boot to rear end. They just don't do that. And somebody on the staff needs to be that guy. I don't know who it is. Somebody's got to do it. It should be the head coach. Sometimes you have to come out and be the bad guy. That's your job.
Take your career to new heights with Constructive Curiosity. Whether it's career coaching, mental performance training, or business management consulting, Constructive Curiosity has the insight to get it right. Visit constructivecuriosity.com to get started today.
This is into the next topic where we will get a little bit more positive, put this into a little bit more perspective. How much did this loss really matter in the grand scheme of the season? Nick, what do you think?
I mean, almost nothing. I mean, they make up the win by playing well against one of the other teams that we thought that they were going to lose to. And essentially, we just got to take this as a learning opportunity and move on, quite honestly. It's got to be a learning opportunity and move on. We can't dwell on it. Of course, it's easy to kind of dwell on the loss because, well, I mean, it's easy to pick out all the bad things that everybody did. I know looking back, when you go to review film, you do see bright spots. You do see things that were done well. You just don't see it in the moment while you're watching it on TV immediately. I mean, it's just like when you review a challenge, a play that was challenged. You see a whole bunch of stuff that you didn't see during the actual play. So there's got to be some bright spots. Don't dwell on the negatives, but you got to be able to focus on those enough to be able to learn from them and move forward.
Like it, Josh.
I mean, it's kind of a lot of the same. I mean, there were some bright spots. Honestly, that offensive line did hold up most of the game. Trent Brown did get trucked by a guy half his size, but for the most part, he did hold up. Everyone gave him plenty of time. It's just Joe Burrow seemed like he didn't trust it. Maybe watching the tape, he's going to see, you know what, maybe I did have more time. Maybe I could hit these passes down the field and feel better about it. So it's all going to really show itself come next week, hopefully. They always seem to play good, even without Joe Burrow. They seem to play good against the Chiefs. Hopefully it's going to all come to a head and they can turn it around because the next two games after that are supposed to be layups. And we've got a good 3 more games to prove what this team can do before we see the Ravens.
And they got to prove something. But, in the grand scheme of things, if you lose one game, you lose one game. If you win the next 16, nobody cares. If you still end up getting, 10 to 14 wins, it probably hurts you at 10, 14, not so much. But it's just disappointing. And with it being the first game of the year, it's frustrating. As a fan, it's very frustrating because you're anticipating, you're excited, you've been waiting all off season, and then wah, wah, wah. It's not good. And, there was a lot of bad luck. It was a string of, you say bad luck as a fan because you couldn't contribute to it. But, one mistake, then another mistake, then another mistake, then another mistake. And they just keep piling on and piling on and piling on and piling on and piling on. And, from the movie Moneyball, one of my favorite quotes is, if your enemy is making a mistake, don't interrupt them. That's basically what the Patriots did. They didn't play a great game. They didn't do anything on offense that would have beaten a good team that week. And this game, the Bengals were not a good team. And they just kept making mistakes, and the Patriots were more than happy to let them keep making mistakes and beat themselves.
Oh, Jacoby Brissett looked like crap. He overthrew people on multiple occasions. There were 3 passes that if there was somebody just in a little bit better position, they would have picked it off and got pick 6. It was incredible how bad he looked. But all he had to do was just hand the ball off to Ramondre Stevenson and let his defense tackle whoever touched the ball on the Bengals.
It was frustrating.
Show your Bengals and Northern Kentucky pride. Get the Talkin Bengals Y'all shirt now. Order today exclusively at talkinbengals.com.
We're actually going to move into a new segment that we're just doing for this game because, everybody's up and down and frustrated. And how much does the game matter? We just talked about. But we're going to give you the most optimistic take on how the season's going to go. We're going to give you the most pessimistic take on how the season's going to go. And then Josh will bring us home with what is probably most likely going to happen. So, Nick, you want to start off pessimistic or optimistic? Which way do we want to go?
I think optimistic because I'm the optimistic guy. So really my big thing with optimism is that there's always room for improvement. These guys are professionals. They're getting paid to play a game. You make this a business decision. You make it as an opportunity to get better. Be a professional, get better, improve, work on what you need to work on, continue to do that. I think really all we can do is just look up from here. I mean, optimistically, I don't think Joe Burrow can play any worse. And that's an optimistic look, right? And if Joe Burrow can play better than what he played today in any other game the rest of the season, we win that game. He makes 2 or 3 better throws, and we win the game. Tanner Hudson doesn't fumble the ball. We win the game. Right? Because then we don't give the ball up in the red zone. Charlie Jones doesn't fumble a punt return. We win the game. Everybody, 1 or 2 things turns the tide of that game, and we win. So optimistically, minimize the mistakes. That's very easy. Minimize your mistakes. Mental errors are huge.
So now we're going to move into Mr. Pessimistic, which, as you all know, is me. But I don't believe all of this, but I'm just going to take you down the rabbit hole of the worst possible scenarios that are going to happen. So first off, the reason that all this is happening is because of the off-field distractions. Nobody's playing together as a team. Jamar and Joe are actually in a fight off the field that we don't know about, and they're just feuding with one another. And everybody's disgruntled and unhappy, and there's no cohesion. The coaching staff has lost control of the team. And what that's going to look like is Joe Burrow is seeing ghosts out there, so he's not going to be the leader that pulls everybody else together. He's going to continue to, instead of taking all the time he had on a 3rd and 10 with 2 one-on-one receivers for the last play on offense of the game, which actually happened, 2 go balls, one-on-one coverage with Yoshavash and Chase, and nobody was pressuring him. And what does he do? He looks like me in a backyard football game, just kind of ducking around and then chucking sideways to a little dump-off pass. That's not acceptable for a quarterback that's supposed to be in the MVP conversation. So he's completely broken. He's not the quarterback we think he is. He's going to bow out midway through the year, basically. He's going to be shell-shocked, have a minor injury. He drags out. Jake Browning's going to come in thinking he's Jake Browning, and he's going to just not do great. And by the end of the year, Chase isn't playing because he was worried about a contract. Higgins isn't playing because he's worried about a contract. Joe Burrow's over there like the coach from Waterboy, just looking across the field at Red Bull U, just terrified to get on the field. And the defense never tackles anybody. And that sounds ridiculous because it is ridiculous. That's why Josh is going to bring us back with the reality. Go ahead, Josh.
Well, in reality, that's not the worst game Joe Burrow's played for the first game of the season. 2 years ago against the Steelers, 5 turnovers. They still had a chance to win the game. They didn't. This is the 3rd year in a row they've dropped the first game of the season. And the other 2 seasons, they dropped the second game of the season. They still, and one of them made a run to the playoffs. This past season, they were right there. They were 2 games behind of making it to the playoffs. And I don't see any reason with this being the easiest schedule that they have ever had under Joe Burrow to not have a chance to make the playoffs. He also had to deal with injury. He did not look himself last season, dealing with the hamstring injury. Took him 4 games to actually be able to move. And when you're using your hand as much as he is on a weekly basis, it's going to take some time to come back to reality and be able to, deal with what you're doing. So I think he's going to be fine. I think the offense is going to be fine. They're not going to do any contracts. Everyone's going to move on from that until the season is over. And they're just going to get back to playing football. Winning cures all. And once they start winning again, everyone's going to be happy. They're going to end up making a run. They're not going to win the AFC number 1. I don't think they're going to be number 1 in the AFC after what I just saw. They still have a chance to win the division. They're tied with Baltimore right now. Just because the Steelers are number 1 in the division right now doesn't mean that they're going to end that way. And I mean, we obviously don't have to worry about Deshaun Watson. He is one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL right now. So I think it's going to be between them and Baltimore, and I think they are going to be able to pull it off against Baltimore, and they're still going to win the division. They're going to be hosting the first playoff game, and it's all going to be copacetic in the end.
Like it, so that's where we are.
Show your pride for Ken and Willie Anderson's Hall of Fame candidacy with our exclusive t-shirt. Featuring a bold design, this shirt lets you celebrate 2 football legends. Plus, 30% of proceeds go to the Ken Anderson Alliance and Willie Anderson Lineman Academy. Wear your support and make a difference today.
Trivia real quick, just because we love trivia. We've kind of given up on a lot of our off-season topics. We'll save those for next off-season because we can't burn them all out now.
Or we'll just see how the season plays out. Maybe we'll have to bring them back.
They might be back by week 7 or 8. We'll see. But right now, the trivia question is, we know they won in 2021. When was the 2 previous times, most recent times before that they won the season opener?
92 and 85. Was that at least close?
Oh, God, no.
2015.
Ding. That's one of them.
The Carson Palmer year, 2005.
So Josh got one of them. 2015, they beat the Raiders 33-13. Because that was a great season. That was when they started off 8-0. Man, what a fun year that was. Oh, until Dalton got hurt and all the other crap that ended. But it was a really fun. That was the best start to a season ever as a Bengals fan, at least for our generation of Bengals fan. Because for 8 weeks, you were thinking you were going to go undefeated. It was fantastic. And the other one, 2018, they beat the Colts 34-23 to open the season.
I knew they beat the Colts one of those. I just couldn't remember what year it was.
So now the moment
terrible at that stuff. I'm terrible at remembering years and when they did this and that.
Now it's time to look at next week's game and focus on the future. And we're going to go into Patty Mahomes time and go into Arrowhead. And Nick, how are you feeling about going into Arrowhead?
It's going to go one of two ways. Mark my words. We're either going to go in, we are going to lay an egg, and they're just going to blow the Bengals out of the water. Chiefs are just going to blow the Bengals out of the water, and the Bengals are going to look like hot garbage, to quote Casey. Or the second way, which is the one that's most preferred, obviously, we're going to go in and we're going to trounce them. Okay, because we're going to come out with something to prove. Right? We just laid an egg in week 1. We look terrible against a really terrible football team. We got something to prove. We need to show everybody in the league that we got something. We got something special here. And they go in and they just trounce Patrick Mahomes. Really, Lou brings the pressure. Patrick Mahomes can't find anybody downfield because he's trying to figure out who's going to be in his face next. There's Chris Collinsworth. Oh man, and doing R-rated stuff with him. And I mean, I really hope that Chris Collinsworth does not announce that game.
He's not. He's on Sunday night football, and this is on Sunday afternoon football.
Good. Thank God. My prayers have been answered. But seriously,
trust me,
I think
he'll find a way.
Come on and guess those.
He'll talk about it Sunday night. 100% he'll talk about Patrick Mahomes 14,000 times, and he's not even playing the game. And third, I don't think that they get away with not showing Taylor Swift at least 40 times during that game. And I really hope and pray to God that they don't show her once.
This is how I'm getting my older daughters to watch football with me. It says Taylor Swift's going to be on tomorrow night or next week. So Taylor Swift's going to be there. I was like, oh, gosh, whatever. Josh?
Well, I'm just going to hope and pray that they watched the tape, learned some mistakes, and saw that the Chiefs in game 1, they didn't do that great either. Kelsey did basically nothing the entire game. Mahomes didn't look like the best quarterback in the league for game 1. But, I mean, that's what you tend to get with game 1. You never know how the offense is going to come out. Hopefully they watch the tape. They learn that they can – Burrow has time. Calm down. Chris Jones is going to be going up against that behemoth of a man that hopefully plants his daggone feet this time. And I think I'm just going to say the Bengals are going to win because they always play good against the Chiefs. Ever since they got to the Super Bowl, they have played good against the Chiefs every single game. And that is what they've said. They built this team to match up good against the Chiefs because they know if they have to get to the Super Bowl, they're going to have to go through Kansas City. So hopefully that comes out true and they can actually play some good football, tackle, grab them, wrap them up. This isn't flag football. This isn't two-hand touch. This is tackle football. Take them down. Don't be afraid to hit them. Just don't hit Mahomes too hard because we know they're going to throw a flag if you just
all you got to do is hit him hard once.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you can take one. Just take one. Let them have one good hit. We'll take a flag. Just, it would feel good for whoever does it, though.
Yeah, I mean, you're caught between conflicting history. The Bengals are terrible in week 2 in the last few seasons, and they're good against the Chiefs. Even last year with Browning, they should have won that game. Bad coaching, in my personal opinion, is what lost them that game. But, yeah, this is just maybe the schedule makers like the Bengals are terrible early in the season, so let's serve one up for the Chiefs because they seem to struggle with the Bengals late in the season. Even a Jake Browning-led Bengals they struggle with late in the season. So let's give them when the Bengals are not a good franchise. So it's hard to see the game going well, in my personal opinion. They were so discombobulated and offbeat in a game that was literally served up on a silver platter. I mean, I don't know how many mistakes you have to make to lose that game. And they made them all. They literally made every mistake they could have possibly made to lose that game. So it's going to be rough, but I'll go in the middle for predictions this week, and Josh, will let you go first. So before we get into the score predictions, we're keeping track. Last week, none of us were close, so we all get a loss. I'm not giving anyone credit for being the closest last week. You have to be at least within a touchdown to get credit for it. So no, nobody gets
L7 weenie.
Yeah, no, 7 weenie, exactly. Dodger dog, foot long, a weenie. But yeah, nobody got credit for last week, so we're all dead tied at 0 still.
Guess what? You just proved that advertising on podcasts works. Reach thousands of local listeners each week and grow your business. Reach out to Talkin Bengals today to find out more by emailing talkinbengals@gmail.com.
All right, Josh, what's your score prediction?
All right. This is going to be – I don't feel good about it because I'm picking the Chiefs to win.
Yep.
Just based on what I saw, if I'm trying to get a point, I got to pick the Chiefs. I'm going to say 2017 Chiefs. It's always a field goal difference between these two teams, or it's within a field goal between these two teams. They're just going to win by 3.
I'm even more pessimistic, so that's why I let Nick go last, because he's Mr. Optimism, Mr. Sunshine, and I'm Mr. Rain Cloud. So I didn't want to go last on this one and bring everybody down. The Bengals are terrible in week 2 with Joe Burrow. I mean, you have the slaughter against the Browns a couple of years ago. That was just ugly. And, they get garbage time touchdowns in week 2, but they just don't really do anything worth noting. Or they don't play well and beat themselves. So I'm going to be going with – I'm going to get shot on my own podcast and booed out of the greater Cincinnati area. That's why I don't live there anymore. But 31-17 Chiefs. Nick,
I'm going to bring us back to the real world. It's going to be 24-21 Bengals. Going to win on a last second field goal by Money Mac.
What was that one? 24-21?
24-21.
So you're taking a
3 touchdowns.
NFC Championship game.
You're gonna take 3 touchdowns on each for 3 quarterbacks. 2 wideouts, right? Touchdowns, right? No tight ends are gonna be really a factor in the game. 24-21. Money Mac's gonna hit a 50+ yarder for the game winner.
And
then Cincinnati is gonna go wild. Hooday, baby.
I like it, and that's what I'm hoping actually happens. I'm rooting against my own prediction here, but they're playing in Missouri this week. You've got to show me. They've got to show me that they can win before I pick them to play against the. Yeah, you see the wordplay there? That's why people tune in to the show.
Yeah, the whole show me state.
That's what they're here for. Is the dad puns and the dad jokes that we bring. That's what they're here for. But yeah, they got to prove it to me. And I'm also, I picked them to lose a couple times last year, and they proved me wrong. So maybe they'll do that again. But I mean, in my gut, as bad as they played Sunday, it's hard to see them bouncing back. But hopefully they do. And now we're into closing thoughts, and we'll let Nick kick off closing thoughts. Go ahead, Nick.
My first closing thought is parents, if your kid complains about having an ear pain, do whatever you can to stop that ear pain, because it is just absolutely miserable. Secondly, please, Bengals, for the love of God, learn from your mistakes and come out and trounce Kansas City. I want every football pundit to say Joe Burrow's that guy and the Bengals are that team this year.
Josh?
We definitely had the Bengals. All of us. as one of the better teams. I hope to God they prove us right because they have the talent. They have built this team to win now. And before we lose T. Higgins, I swear, man, I want to see them at least get to the Super Bowl, and they should be able to win it against whoever they're playing because I don't see anyone in the NFC doing this. So please just go out there this week. Show Kansas City that they're not going to get back. They're not going to three-peat. Taylor Swift is not going to get another ring because we know she gets them. It's not Travis Kelce. She gets a ring.
Oh, goodness. Well, almost forgot. So we have to do our Talking Bengals challenge question. So last week we had no winners. Just like the Bengals, like in our post we put on Facebook, there was no winners to the challenge question, but I do have to give a shout out to our person that got really dang close. So drum roll, please. As much drum roll as I can do is my fingers on the desk right now. So that's all we got. But it was Vicky Blackball was 1 yard off. She said 27. Yoshavash had 26. Oh, almost. Right there. Try again this week. Our question for this week, because I'm feeling a little bit sadistic and not feeling the Bengals' chances right now, as you all could tell. Patrick Mahomes passing yards. That is going to be the thing. How many passing yards will Patrick Mahomes have? And against the Bengals, Jamar Chase has had more receiving yards than Patrick Mahomes had passing yards. So you got to keep that in mind as you make your guess this week. But either tag us on our Facebook post that we put up about it, hit us up on Twitter. You can always email us at talkingbengals@gmail.com. And then check us out on social media. We are at talking_Bengals. Everywhere you can find us on social media, we are there. We got great new merch out for all the, for the family-friendly stuff. We got Sunday Fun Day. We got Boo Day shirts with Ghost on them. Cheer for the Bengals. Get out there. Get your awesome merch. Don't forget to support Kenny and Willie Anderson's Hall of Fame, trip there. We're trying to get them into the Hall of Fame. Buy a shirt. 30% of the proceeds go to the Ken Anderson Alliance. And other than that, I think we're all excited for more football. It's just week 1. It's going to be okay. Hoo day.
Hoo day.
Thank you for listening to Talkin Bengals. Be sure to like and subscribe to Talkin Bengals on Facebook and Instagram at Talkin Bengals. You can also listen to Talkin Bengals on your preferred podcast provider. See you next time.